Hi there. So does it feel like today everything is just reeling out of control, that you work hard, you don't feel like you're getting ahead. You're kind of hopeless, actually. Every time you go to the food store, prices are rising, the price of gas, everything is going up. Um, Everything is just feels upside down, and you've tried meditating or running or doing this instead of that, but you still, at the end of the day, you just can't shut it off. You don't feel right. You feel like stressed all the time. Do you feel like that? I was feeling like that recently, half a dozen months or so ago, but I thought it was because of other things that had come into my life that I didn't really want. So I tried rejiggering, doing this instead of that, and finally it occurred to me, this nothing I'm doing is working. This seems like 4 decades ago when I started in recovery for my addictions, and I hate that feeling, which is why I never went back to my addictions. I never want to feel that way again. But I was beginning to feel like, wow, I can't seem to get this under control. So I thought to myself, what worked back 40 years ago? And I thought, aha. And I remember the artist way is really what turned that around when we first started doing that about 30 years ago. So I thought, okay, we'll go back to that. So I did, and I started talking to other people, and I wasn't alone. Yeah, I had this other thing going on in my life, but it'll pass. And everybody was feeling the same thing. The weight of life today was just wearing them down. They weren't sleeping well. They were irritated, all these things I could identify with. So I got a group of us together and said, let's do the artist way again. And I got a bunch of funny looks because most of my friends aren't artists. They don't make a living as an artist. And I said, this has nothing to do with being an artist. It's creative solutions. And just they trusted me enough that they played along with me. And let me tell you what came out of it. The first resistance I saw was Julia Cameron's best-selling book, The Artist Way, which I honor because it turned my life around 30 years ago. Um, so the first resistance I got from people was, you want me to do what? Read a whole chapter in a week and do all the tasks at the end of the chapter? And I thought, yeah, that is a lot with everything going on today. So I said, well, let's just slow it down and take a month to get through a chapter. So everybody agreed to that. I mean, who wouldn't? Great way of procrastination, right? So we started out doing it. And so, note to self, let's slow this thing down. And then I started getting resistance to the morning pages and the artist dates and this and that. So I introduced this other thing that I teach, which is called neurographic art. It's a way of uh, rewiring your head when you're crazy and distracted and stressed and worried and everything isn't working. I have these exercises that I guide people through. It takes 5 minutes to get you back on track. So, again, note to self. So, little by slow, I noticed that, wow, I'm feeling better. Others are benefiting greatly from this program. So, without much creativity, I sat down and rejiggered the Artist Way into a program I'm calling the Artist Way Reimagined. Like I say, it honors Julia Cameron's work, but I've slowed it down. I've added neurographic art and community. the community is what I noticed was really holding us together. Why is that? And I thought, well, think about the beginning of a meeting when we all dump our stuff, whatever's going on that day, before we do like a moment of silence to get focused. And that that builds a bond of trust. And that bond of trust is where the support and accountability come in. And so the Artist Way Reimagined is just a natural birth of something that was working for a group of, what, a half a dozen frustrated people. All I know is when we first started, we were here, and now we're here. And what could be better than that? And because it takes such a minimal amount of time now that we've slowed down take a month to read a chapter instead of rushing through in a week, people are really getting into the tasks at the end of the book. These aren't people that necessarily were in the space that I was in 30 years ago. When I first did the Artist Way 30 years ago, I was driving a truck and I hated it. And before I finished the book, with the support of my group, I quit that job, started a business, which was going to support me for the next 30 years, melting glass. I didn't even know I was an artist, small a. I do know that having the support of people gave me the courage to quit that awful job so I could devote my time into learning my new craft and running a business, which I'm just winding down now. And it's provided me a very nice little life here. So to summarize, what is the Artist Way Reimagined? It's honoring Julia Cameron's work, The Artist Way. It's slowing it way down, taking a month instead of a week to get through a chapter. We meet once a month in a safe and supportive environment, which means we have accountability. We're accounting to ourselves that, yeah, I got to be with these people in a few weeks. I got to read this and do the work. I'm not going to be the one that says, no, I didn't do it. We add neurographic art for when you're stuck and resisting certain things or just don't want to do it. This seems to be the secret sauce of how to do the artist way in 2025, 26. I have seen so much magic come out of the artist way, which is why I've done it like dozens of times. I've facilitated meetings at least once a year for 30 years. And the things I have witnessed have just would blow your socks off. I mean, one of my friends, Kathleen, she was in a horrible job to her at Nordstrom's selling women's clothing or something. And her passion is athletic stuff. So she always wanted to be a yoga teacher. So she spent a couple years going through all she had to do. And then she converted a garage in her house and she has a private yoga studio where she only teaches privately now. I mean, that's just one story. Another Kathy wrote a book and had it published and had an opening at Barnes and Nobles. I mean, these are just two little examples. My vision for the Artist Way Reimagined is I'm building the community that I want. This is the community, every day you talk to friends and it's a great release. And I'm building that community where we don't just talk about the Artist Way Reimagined. We talk about what's going on. Hey, what's going on? We're there for each other. Listen, they're blowing up the United States. It's reacting globally. Inflation's out of control. People are buried 24/7 in their devices and cell phones. I don't know how anybody has a minute to have a creative thought in their head. Remember back when you were a kid and you were light, you giggled, you jumped for joy, you did cartwheels. Nobody ever told us to stop doing that. It's just life got in the way. There's no way you can't add some of that back. I'm not saying that I'm going to go do cartwheels in my front garden this afternoon, no. But I am going to say that today, like yesterday, I'm going to take a certain amount of time scheduled in my busy schedule and have some moments of joy, right? That can be as simple as walking the dogs through the woods. It can be as simple as just doing some neurographic art exercises. Maybe it's calling and chatting with a friend. I, I'm I'm building, well, I'm not, we're building this community, and that's what makes it so special. If you think the Artist Way may reimagine may be a good fit for you, why don't you try this freebie that I'll leave a link for it in the description below. See if that's a good fit for you. And if it is, I'll leave another link and you can go over to my business, the Mind Sketch Lab, where I'm including the Artist Way Reimagined free in the monthly membership for Mind Sketch Lab. It's only $9 a month. When I've been doing this for free for 30 years, and I realize I can't do it for free. That would be disrespectful to myself. So I have to charge a few bucks. I started looking around online to see what other instructors of the Artist Way were charging, and my head almost exploded. I saw one person, 12-week online course for $795. Wait, what? $795 to walk somebody through a book in 12 weeks? No, no gatekeeping. So if you can identify with any of this, we'd love to have you. Bye for now.